Hi, welcome back to the Real Country File. I am of course spreading fertiliser. We've got a lovely sunny day, but it is cold weather here. What a week. Anyway, before we go any further, massive thanks to Zoetis, who are an animal health company that do a lot of stuff for parasites in cattle and sheep. They're sponsoring today's episode. You can visit them on their website and it is displayed here or in a link below this video. Got a lot coming up. We're also going to be seeing from Olivia. You may have seen her before on here. She worked for me last summer as well. We're going to be talking to her about her sheep. But before that, Angela is over in Shropshire talking about TB. So let's go over to Angela.
Well, today on the Real Country File, I've been invited to a panel meeting about TB. It's hosted by the Shropshire Holstein Society, but there's farmers from all over the Midlands and Northwest region who have arrived here tonight. So should be a very interesting discussion, and I'm sure it'll be very emotive as well. So let's go and take a look at what's happening.
So welcome to tonight's TB debate. Where are we going with TB? So if we can just reset and remind ourselves why we're here. If you think bovine tuberculosis has devastated UK cattle farming, forcing the slaughter of hundreds of thousands of cattle, and even last year 34,000 cattle were slaughtered in England and Wales alone.
So how did I get involved in TB? Well, it's pretty straightforward. We ended up with the tide of TB coming past our little part of the world. What happened then was this.
See the weather this morning probably reflects my mood. How do you keep investing in a business where the big problem in the business is beyond your control? If we don't control TB in all its vectors, then we're going to have to put up with the disappointment of watching good cows slaughtered on a regular basis. It's 10 months now under movement restriction, 10 months extra calf rearing costs. Make nothing on the calves. We sell them for about £250 a piece. It costs us more than £250 to rear them. We've got losses every time we do the TB test of animals that we think are healthy going off. Okay, this is it. This is the final view of the girls. There they are, happily munching the grass, thinking about the stomachs, which is just as well, because by Thursday night they'll all be dead.
It was a pretty emotional situation, I'm sure you'd imagine. We lost 150 cows in that outbreak. So for me, where I finish is that we need to get on the front foot. If there's something we need that's going to fundamentally change the game, it's governance. The model of governance is a joke. We are done to, we're not done with, and we want the policy to be ours, and we want people to be in a place of responsibility so that they have to perform. The TB policy should have to work for them to remain in post. And truthfully at the moment, that is just not the case. The politicians do not give a fig about the success or failure of the policy.
Because we're lucky in dairying in particular, we're dealing with very dynamic populations. The cows that you've got today won't be the same cows that you've got in 3 years' time. So we drift out the infecteds, replace them with non-infecteds. That's what we did, and we did it reasonably successfully. Brian May got involved because we recognised that there was a risk from the badgers. We tested Warwick University tested 273 badger fecal samples that were collected from the farm around the environment over 3 months. Brian chose to take it as an example of where he didn't think the badgers were involved. And I don't think the badgers were involved. It was nothing to do with the badgers. It was an endemic infection spreading from undisclosed infected animals within that herd.
I get increasingly frustrated by what we hear about barriers. I do, as one of the directors of the cull, I do think it's done a wonderful job. It's got us, we've seen the results as Phil's put up there, and I think that's a terrible barrier to put in place. What we can do about those, I don't know, but I think as an industry we're getting knocked from pillar to post by this government, and I think some way or other we need to stand up to them a bit better.
Like pretty much every other disease, vaccination will not cure animals that have already got it. Exactly the same with badgers. There's absolutely no point using badger vaccination in areas where we know badgers have already got TB. There's plenty of evidence to show that TB bacteria will live for 60 days in water, probably 6 months in slurry. So I think we've got to be realistic. The only role I see for vaccination of badgers is in areas that are already clear to ring fence and to walk back in then once you clear an area. So I think culling has got to continue to be part of the strategy in the areas that are already infected. It's pointless to believe that badger vaccination will replace culling in badger infected areas.
Because I live in Wales and we have a problem with it, the TB, and it's not reducing as the figures show. And in England, where the cull is, it's reducing. And let's not get away from that evidence.
I'm not anti-culling. If you want to kill the badgers, it's fine by me. Let me know how you get on. Hasn't worked for us, that's all I know. We've got to block transmission routes. That's the way to deal with infectious disease. This is just another infectious disease.
I think on that I would love to conclude. I think we've had a really fascinating conversation from multiple sides here, but what is quite clear to me is we need a number of tools in the box to eradicate this disease. I don't think, well, we're pretty certain we're not going to be able to eradicate it, we've got to work with it. It's those tools in the box that are actually going to help us get to that place.
Right, well, obviously a very emotive subject, lots of people having different opinions there. But what are your thoughts? Have you had any experience of TB on your farm? Have you had any solutions or any issues that have actually worked for you? Let us know in the comments. We'd be really interested to hear from you.
Thanks, Angela. It can be a desperately worrying time. TB outbreaks. TB, not TV. Well, in fact, not a lot of people watch TV anymore. They watch YouTube, don't they? Anyway, we're going to head over to Olivia, who's got a massive flock of 12 sheep, and see how she's getting on.
I'm Olivia and I've got 12 sheep which I'll be lambing for the first time this spring. So I've asked Mark from Zoetis to come and give me some advice.
Hi, as an animal health advisor, I feel it's key for me to talk to Olivia today about the pre-lambing period, a key time on any sheep farm.
So Mark, should there be any targets that I should really be looking for in my flock of 12?
Yeah, so whether we've got 12 or 1200, I would always set targets. And our aim is always to be, for any sustainable sheep farm, it's just to aim to have 2 lambs per ewe per year.
Yeah. And
to aim to finish those lambs, hopefully, around 14 to 16 weeks,
yeah,
if possible, depending on each farm's, how intensive each farm is.
Yeah.
And the grass quality.
Yeah.
Have you had your scanned, Olivia, this time?
Yeah, so even though we've only got 12, we still thought it'd be useful to know how many lambs each ewe was going to have. So we scanned at about 162%, okay, which we were really happy with for a first time. Yeah, so half of them have got singles, half of them have got doubles.
That's good that we've got those results, and then we can look at how we maybe feed these animals.
Yeah.
Whether we feed the ones with twins,
yeah,
a bit more than we do the ones with singles.
Yeah.
So we don't get too bigger lambs.
Yeah.
In the singles, and finding it hard to lamb them. And getting nutritional advice is key leading up to lambing, because that helps with our survival of our ewes and our lambs, and helps with colostrum quality, quantity of colostrum,
yeah,
and then hopefully reduces our chances of getting twin lamb disease.
Yeah.
Yeah, so body condition scoring goes on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being too fat, 1 being too thin. This ewe that I've got my hand on here is roughly about a 2.2, 2.5. It's probably a little bit too thin coming into lambing, so I'll talk to Olivia a little bit in a minute about how much we're going to feed this ewe and whether we can split these ewes into 2 groups, and we can feed and looking at the scanning results as well, taking them into account. Now would be a good time to talk to you about whether we worm our ewes around lambing time or not. Healthy adult ewes in good body condition can control their worm egg output using the acquired immunity. Around lambing time, their immunity relaxes, and especially ewes in poor body condition under nutritional stress will lose this control. This results in the worms in the ewe's gut producing a lot more eggs, Olivia, which are then passed out in their dung, contaminating pasture, which is then going to be grazed by your lambs. This increased egg output by these ewes is known as the periparturient or spring rise, which leads to an increased worm larvae burden onto the pasture. This PPR egg output starts around 2 weeks before lambing and persists for about 6 weeks afterwards. More information on the treatment of ewes around lambing can be found on the SCOPS website.
So Mark, what are some of the lambing essentials that should be in my lambing kit at this time of year?
Yeah, so we're now moving on to the lambing period, and it's great you've got your lambing essentials here for your lambing period, because it's quite intense, and it's key that we've got them at hand when we need them.
Yeah.
From having a really good lambing aid, having some gloves, some arm length gloves, and knowing when we need to intervene is crucial.
Yeah.
And knowing when you might have to call the vet. Also, we've got some lubricant here that is really needed when we are using our gloves and our lambing aid. We've also got our lamb bottle, and we've also got some colostrum as well.
Yeah.
And colostrum, like we've talked about, is crucial, especially it might be late at night and we want to get that lamb, some colostrum into that lamb, and we haven't been able to get some off the ewe.
The liquid gold, that's
the
what it is.
The liquid gold, yeah. And we want it quality colostrum and quickly.
Yeah.
And plenty of it.
Yeah.
We've got our rings on our pliers, our applicator, and these are to be used for tail docking and castrating at a few days of age.
So in what cases might we need to use this twin lamb drench then?
Yeah, so the twin lamb drench, you might see signs of a ewe being lethargic, a bit dopey, maybe just going off on its own in a corner, and just not looking right. It can happen in other ewes though, with singles, but it normally does happen with ewes expecting twins.
Okay. So once lambing time's finished, all the lambs are out, they're healthy, what's the next step that we should be thinking about for the flock?
Yeah, so after lambing, we move on to other tasks on the farm, don't we? The lambs are out, maybe nibbling at grass, especially when they're about 6 weeks of age.
Yeah.
So then a worm species called nematodirus is something that we need to watch out for. And I would always encourage everyone to look at the SCOPS. They do a forecast to monitor when nematodirus could be a problem on your farm. So SCOPS is something I would encourage people to visit on the website. We also need to put in a prevention fly strike plan. Yeah. This is also key. We don't want any fly strike.
No.
It's nasty. So if we could put a plan in place to prevent this, then that's great.
Yeah.
So best of luck, Olivia, and I really look forward to seeing you post-lambing and seeing how everything went and seeing some great lambs.
Thanks, Olivia and Mark. Do you have any advice for her as she's starting out? Let us know in the comments, and equally anything to do with TB. If you've got any of your stories and want to share them, let them know. I know we could obviously help others. A massive thanks again to our sponsor this week, Zoetis, I think it's pronounced, and have a chat with your vet. They also do a product called sidectin, which is used to control worms in sheep. So yeah, go and check them out again on the website. What a week we've had anyway. You know, for me, the whole thing about trying to compulsory purchase land when you're urban fringe is the only thing you've got kind of to look forward to, is the fact that they might take some of the land off you and you can go and replace it with more acres that are less trespass. So to say that they're going to start compulsory purchase stuff is not good. And then of course the closure of the SFI. If you are on the scheme, you still should be okay. And if you did the pilot scheme and you just fell off it, again, you should be able to reapply. But there's a lot of people who will fall through the gaps. I believe only 30% of farms actually have an SFI in place, which is such a shame because it is what was replacing the direct payments and the BPS. But yes, we've got to fight some of this. We've got to educate the government about exactly what is going on farms and how they work, because they do not seem to have a clue. Anyway, that is probably all for this week. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.